I'm not hearing nothing.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening. Good evening, our brothers and sisters on the Zoom platform. Good evening to those who are joining us on social media, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on our Instagram account. I believe, I know for YouTube and Facebook. Pleasant good evening to everyone, friends, family, members of the Maranatha District of Churches. You will be formally welcome, so I'm just telling you good evening as we start our program. My co-host tonight is Sister Nordia Brown. She is the Family Life Director at the Maranatha SDA Church. And our program tonight is a collaboration between the Education Ministry and the Family Life Ministry at Maranatha SDA Church. And so our program tonight is entitled Educating Our People, Securing a Home for the Family. And so we're going to be taking you through what is happening on the housing market as it relates to the National Housing Trust and your benefits. And you're going to be hearing much more about this in just a little while. But right now, to start our program, I'm going to be turning over to our pastor. He comes on. Let me introduce to you our pastor, Dr. Michael Harvey. He is the pastor for the Maranatha District of Churches, which has 5 churches under its umbrella. And he holds the needs of his congregants in very high regards. And he is true to his word and his mantra of having a seek and save mentality. Tonight, brethren, tonight, friends, tonight, community folks, we talk about an earthly home. But come next week, we will be talking about preparing our final home for heaven. Follow us on our Facebook and social media sites for those, for the crusade that we have coming up. But tonight, we are going to be talking about owning your own home, securing your home, securing a home for your family. And now, for our opening prayer and welcome, I now turn over to our pastor, Pastor Dr. Michael Harvey.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Maranatha District of Seventh-day Adventist Churches. We're delighted to have you here, and I'm pleased to partner with our education sponsor, Sister Tashina Ebanks, and our family ministries directors, Nordia and Kawane Brown, and all the members of the Maranatha Church, and by extension, the Maranatha District. We are delighted to have here with us this evening to share from the reservoir of their experience and to deliver on the mantra from the National Housing Trust. This evening we have with us from the National Housing Trust, and in particular right here in Manchester, we have Mrs. Stacy Thomas Green, Compliance Manager, Manchester Operations. We have also Mrs. Marshall Harris, Acting New Loan Supervisor, Manchester Operations, and we have Ms. Case, Marketing Officer, Manchester Operations. We're delighted to have you at the appropriate time. You will hear much more about these wonderful persons that we have joining us from the National Housing Trust as we seek to focus on the theme, educating our people, securing a home for the family. We recognize that this is the greatest investment that any person can make in his or her lifetime. And so we want to ensure that we provide the information so that our people can understand what it is that the National Housing Trust has to offer us, because I believe without a shadow of a doubt, the lowest interest rate you can get anywhere and how important it is to be a part. So you will hear all about that. And so we thank you for joining us. Those are for friends on Facebook and YouTube. You have been faithful, you have been constant. And so we're delighted to have you with us. Welcome. And this is the place where we love genuinely, care compassionately, and serve sincerely. We will always be kind, caring, and polite, so you're in a right environment. And with that said, I wish that you will enjoy yourselves this evening. So like, subscribe, because this is the place to be. And the information that you are going to get will change your lives forever. Let us bow our heads as we pray. Our sovereign God and our Father, we thank you so much for loving us and for demonstrating your love for us so that we can find commonality and oneness in you, despite the geographical areas from which we have come or parental lineages. We pray that you will guide us in our deliberations, and we thank you for those from the National Housing Trust, persons who have come to be with us to share their expertise and how we can further benefit from the National Housing Trust. We thank you for our education director, Sister Ibanks, and for our family life ministries directors, Sister Nordia and Brother Kawain Brown. And we ask that you will be with all of us. May we be edified, may we be informed, and may we be challenged. Thank you for hearing and for answering, and grant success, we pray, in Jesus' name.
Thank you so much, Pastor. And now I invite my co-host, Sister Nordia Brown, to take us through the next segment. Sister Brown?
Good night, everyone. Our scripture reading is taken from 1 Samuel 25, verse 6, and it reads, and thus shall he say to him that liveth in prosperity, peace be both to thee, and peace be to thine house, and peace be unto all that thou hast. With that blessed scripture reading, brethren, we will now have the presenters from the National Housing Trust. First, we will have the compliance presentation from Sister Tashina Ibanks, who is the compliance inspector for the Manchester operation. Then, we will have the loans and development presentation from Ms. Kiana Case, the marketing officer for the Manchester and St. Elizabeth operation. These presenters will furnish us with all the information that will allow you, our viewers, to prepare your minds on ways to acquire a home, and that you will invite the Lord to come in and bless it with love, joy, and peace. Before the presenters come to us, we will have a beautiful poem entitled Home, after which you will hear the presenters.
This is our base, our favourite place, our beginning and end to each day. It's our triumph and glory that these walls tell stories as they soak up all we do and say. This is our space. Each corner is laced with items we've chosen with care. From sweet-scented candles to fixtures and handles, the atmosphere's just right to share. So near or so far, wherever we are, no matter where we choose to roam, we live and we learn, but we always return. This is the place we call home.
We always return home. What a blessed thing it is to go back home. After a long day, you want to go home. And so that is why we're here this evening, because we want to make sure that our family members, our church family members, our friends can secure a home for themselves, for their families, and we're bringing that information to you. So tonight, I am now going to step into another place, wear another hat as one of the compliance inspectors at the National Housing Trust. And first, I'm going to pave the way for our loans presentation. And I know you want to know a lot more about our Perth housing scheme that is coming up. But before we go to that, I just want to lay the foundation from a compliance perspective. And as the name suggests, compliance means that you keep up with something. And so how do you first become a contributor to the National Housing Trust? For you must be a contributor before you can think about getting a loan from the NHT. So I'm going to take you through who are our category of contributors you fall in, and you're also going to know what your responsibilities are. And later, when our marketing officer speaks, Ms. Kiana Case, you will learn more about what benefits you can get from the National Housing Trust. So let's now go to contributing to the NHT. Now, NHT is a housing institution, as many of us know. We provide loans and we provide the lowest interest rates in the market. You can check the banks, they'll never have a rate as low as ours. The National Housing Trust is a statutory body funded from contributions from employers, employees, self-employed persons, and voluntary contributors. And we're going to be talking more about those persons. Now, who do we call a contributor by NHT standard? A contributor is anyone between the ages of 18 to 65 years old, but you must be earning the minimum wage or more per week. You're also a contributor if you are a Jamaican citizen employed to embassies, United Nations agencies, high commissions, and consulates that are situated in Jamaica. A contributor is also someone, a Jamaican citizen, to a Jamaican embassy, Jamaican high commissions, Jamaican consulates, and Jamaican companies that are resident abroad. Employers are also considered contributors, meaning there are persons who own their companies or they're directors in their companies and they do not contribute through their company's payroll, meaning that they're not on the books of their company as how an employee would be. No. Not contributors, persons who they're American citizens They are gainfully employed in Jamaica. At times we may call them expatriates. They come here to work and they earn their income here. Persons who, although not liable to pay contributions, who want to pay, can apply to the minister with responsibility or National Housing Trust to give permission for them to pay contributions. And we'll talk about those persons in just a while. Now, there are four categories to the National Housing Trust. First, we have our employers, then our employees, then our self-employed persons, and our voluntary contributors. And we're going to be talking about each category of persons. Now, the employers, many of us here are employed, we work somewhere. The person we work for is called our employer, as we know. And so they hire people to work for them, and they pay wages and salaries or salaries. Now, the employer has a responsibility. So if you're on tonight and you, even though you work, you have a company, you have a business, maybe it's you operate from your home, but you have somebody working in the business there, you have a pastry shop, you do catering, you are an employer and you have some responsibilities to the NHT. You're to deduct 2% of all the employees' gross salary. And that is everything that the employees earn in cash, especially whatever is earned in cash. You're to deduct 2% of all of those monies from your employees. And you're to match that with a 3% portion. So you are to remit to the NHT on a quarterly basis 5% of your employees' gross wages. You're also to file your SO2 annually by March 31st of each year. And that deadline is coming up, March 15th rather, that should be March 15th for last year, 2020 annual returns. Now, our other category of contributor is employees. And if you work for someone, you're categorized as an employee. You're paid wages and salary. Employees have a responsibility. They pay through their employers 2% of their income. So as we said before, the employer actually deducts this from the employee's salary. And the employee is to be guided, is to know, or is to understand that the employer has that responsibility to make a deduction. So it's not about whether you feel like paying NHT or not. Once you're between the ages of 18 to 65, you earn the minimum wage or more, you're employed, your employer is to deduct the 2% from your salary. Now, employees can advise the NHT where they're not seeing any deductions from their salary. They can speak with their accounts department to find out if it is being deducted, but it's not reflected on their pay slips. But if they're not certain, they can always check with the National Housing Trust. So we can check our records. Our third category of contributors are self-employed contributors. And as the word self connotates, you work for yourself. You may be an employee, but you have your own business on the side. Let's say you have a farm, or you do online work, or you do other forms of work outside of your regular employment. That work is called self-employed work, and you are to make NHT payments on those incomes as well. A domestic worker or gardeners are called self-employed persons as well. And when we speak of domestic workers, we're not just talking about the helper in your home. We're also talking about those persons who are engaged in activities that are not involved in trading, like a chef, you know, the person who works in your home, gardeners, directors of companies are who have a company, you're a director of that company, you're classified as a self-employed individual. Also, basic school and early childhood educators for whom NHT deductions are not made on their income. We know that many been through the government. Those who were at basic schools or early childhood institutions, but they were not paid by the government, they would be registered as self-employed. We also have under the self-employed contributors group, farm workers and hotel workers employed to the Ministry of Labor who work overseas. So those persons who go off, they may go on ships, cruises, hotels. I know during the pandemic, much of that has been curtailed, but these persons are to make any deductions comes from the self-employed contributors are also Jamaican citizens employed to embassies, United Nations agents, and consulates situated in Jamaica. And we'll go to our next category of contributors or voluntary contributors. Or before we go there, our self-employed responsibilities, the responsibilities, forgive me, please, the responsibilities of our self-employed contributors. If we could go to that next slide, please. The responsibilities of our self-employed contributors. Self-employed contributors are to pay of incomes. So every quarter, SO4s, 4A rather, which is an estimated self-employed return, and annually you're to file your SO4, which is the annual return for self-employed persons. So remember, once you're working for yourself or you have extra income that you earn outside of your employment, these responsibilities are yours as a self-employed person. And our final category of contributors are voluntary contributors. Now, these persons they may be employed or self-employed persons who reside outside of Jamaica. So many of us may have our relatives overseas. Maybe they once worked here and they have migrated. They may be overseas, they'll be working on dual citizenship and still want to contribute to the National Housing Trust that want to get on later on. They can be registered as voluntary contributors. Pensioners who continue to earn at least the minimum wage and desire to contribute, they can contribute as a voluntary contributor. And as we go to our other slide, our voluntary contributors are to pay 3% of their income to the NHT monthly. Now, these payments are to be made at our NHT office. Unlike the self-employed payments and payments from the employer for the employees, they are to be made at the tax office. NHT does not collect contribution payments through its offices, only for voluntary contributors. Now, if you have relatives who are overseas and you would like them to register under our voluntary contributors program, all you have to do is call our office and we will assist you in sending to you the forms that are required, or you may go to our website and select our voluntary contributors tag there, and there you will find all the documents that are required for one to register as a voluntary contributor. Now, there are some penalties for non-compliance. What I've outlined to you before, you would have seen your responsibilities, but what if you do not comply with those responsibilities or those expectations from the National Housing Trust? Well, there are some penalties here. A 20 penalty per year is charged for contributions that are submitted late. Now, the contributions are to be paid quarterly, so if they're late, then there's a penalty there. Where the employers are taken to court, they're also charged a penalty set at 5% above the weighted average Treasury bill rate for the past 6 months, and that rate changes every month. So where the employer is non-compliant, the NHT will take the employer to court. And that is if we would have sent notices to you, we would have spoken to you, we would have visited you, we would have tried to negotiate with you to come up with an agreement or a payment plan. But where all of those things fail, that is when you are sent to our attorneys to be taken before the court. But we prefer that everyone calls us and at least tries to make an agreement with your inspector, with the compliance manager before all of this happens. It's a last resort for the NHT to take anyone to court. If payments are not made in the first year, then according to the court order, a surcharge of 10% is added to the penalty. So we encourage persons, employers, self-employed persons, and voluntary contributors who are not taken to court because, of course, they're volunteering, but we encourage everyone to make their payments on time. Also, there's earlier responsibility. Now the annual return is an electronic online now. You would put all the information for all your employees during a particular year. So coming up to March 15th, we expect that employers who had in their employment are liable for any events which are more, that they file their SO2 or their annual return online. If they do not file that, then there's a $30,000 fine or 3 times the amount of unpaid contributions, whichever is greater, that is levied on the employer for failure to file their annual returns. So all our employers out there, we encourage you to file on time. Next slide. Benefits for compliance. When you pay your contributions for the employer, we spoke about the fact that there would deduct match it with 3%, and so a total of 5% is paid over to the NHT. Now the employer's 3% contribution is treated as an expense on his record. So at the end of each year, when he's doing his financial statements, he looks at the 5% that was paid, the 3% rather, that was paid for the employee, and he sets that on the expenses be deducted from his gross profit, thereby reducing his tax liability. So the employer 3% contribution is treated as an expense. So that is a benefit for compliance or for the employer. On our next slide, another benefit is that you can get a TCC. Now, a TCC is a tax clearance certificate. Why do you need a TCC? Well, perhaps you're opening a bank account. The bank may require you to submit a TCC. You may be employed, you may be self-employed, or you may be a company. So it is important that you keep your taxes up to date so that when you apply for a TCC, you can get your letters, your clearance letter on time. You may also need a TCC because you're clearing things from overseas. Someone sent you something, or you're buying a car overseas and you want to clear it, or somebody send you goods, barrel come, you know, and you have things to clear, you may need a TCC. The customs may require that you get a TCC. And so we're going to be asking you about your employment status. If you're employed, then you need to submit your last pay slips and so on, so we can see that the NHT is being deducted. If you're self-employed, then we are going to want to see that your payments are up to date. A company may also need a tax compliance certificate because it is bidding for a contract, and the government requires these that the TCC is produced in order for company. to have in order for the company to get their clearance. And so I know there is question and answer after my slide, but we're going to take Miss Casey's presentation, after which we will go for the question and answer. So we're asking you to just hold your question until Miss Case makes her presentation, and then thereafter we will go to the question and answers. So now I turn over to Miss Kenna Case. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I hope you can see me clearly.
We can.
Okay. I am going to be hopefully very brief so that we can get as many questions as possible in the session. Thank you, Tashina, for that great introduction into what benefits you get when you actually apply with the NHD, pay your contributions. That was a great foundation on which we're going to build a house, pun intended. So we are going to be building through two means. We're going to show you the scheme side first, which is probably the more interesting thing because Perth is really a hot topic right now. And we're also going to be showing you what it is that the NHD has to offer. So without further ado, I'm going to be sharing my presentation now. So the objectives of this session are to inform you of the policies that NHD about Perth Phase 1A, its qualification requirements and the policies to assist you to increase your readiness for the scheme application intake, which we hope is soon, and to create awareness of the enablers that aid home ownership. Now, at the end of this session, you should be able to, we're going to talk about knowing your eligibility, know your compliance status, which is what Tashina just alluded to earlier. Remember that that is a very important thing when you're applying for a scheme because there's a thing called points, which people see. We all want to know how much points we have, how much you can afford, and start planning for home ownership. No, not waiting until we have many gray hairs, although I started graying from I was 12, but waiting until we have reached a point in our lives that we have to do this. So where is Perth? It's actually 4.83 kilometers, which is about 10 or 15 minutes outside of the Mandeville Town Center. It's actually Perth 1 Phase 1A is within, there were some clusters of land in Perth Phase 1 that we did not build on. So they are going to be built on now, so that is where you have the spaces, like little bit of clusters here, a little bit of clusters there. It consists of 118 solutions, which has since been revised to 113. So it's going to be 32 bedrooms and 83 service lots. The 2 bedrooms consist of 2 bedroom and 1 bathroom, and they're 839 square feet. Cupboards are included, but I'll show you some photographs of the units as we move through the presentation. The minimum size of the lots are 5,000 square feet, which is a little bit over under a quarter acre. Sorry. This is what the service lot looks like. It's empty land, and there are amenities for light and water, as well as sewage disposal. So when you go to build your house on this piece of land, you do not have to get connection to be driven to the lot or for electricity to be placed on the lot like how a person who is doing it privately would have to do it. So it is a service, that's why it's called a service lot. This is how the 2 bedroom houses will look. Not the same color, but this is the concept. So from this, you can even build one of these 2 bedrooms on the lots that you have, because having gotten the lot, you're also entitled to the loan to build on the lot. Now, the special thing about this is that With Perth, there may be some rule changes as it relates to accessing construction loan. However, I don't want to necessarily get into that, but just to point out that when you get a service lot, you're entitled to the difference between what the NHT lends and the cost of the lot to build. So for example, if the lot is being sold for 4 million, the great thing is that you get 100% financing for that. You can get the difference to build, which is 2.5. However, as I said, there might be some special arrangement, which I really don't want to get into. These houses are not actually photographs of Perth. These are from different schemes that we've had. But I must say, sometimes they look a little bit small, but they can actually hold most furnishings that, the typical furnishing that we would want in our houses. So that's another photograph of one. These were in Trelawney. So this is the layout of the 2-bedroom. As you can see, it's an open concept. When you walk in, this is the door. You walk into the house. This is your living and dining space and kitchen in one. There is a passage for the bathroom and the 2 bedrooms. Each bedroom is 12 by 12, but the closet takes up 2 inches. So the space around it is actually 10 by 12. It can hold a queen size bed and 2 side tables, as well as a chest of drawers, which, yes, it might sound a little like the space is going to be a little bit clustered, but here's the great thing. If you want to turn one of these into a master bedroom, you're free to do your additions. However, in terms of where you can add, it all depends on what we call our restrictive covenants, which are actually passed on to the NHT by the parish council. So those things are what you will be told should you be selected for one of those. You have a porch with a wash tub, which is not enclosed, but you can enclose it. You can also move this and expand. So there will be room for expansion around probably the east side of the unit. You can add a garage. There are changes can be made to the unit for you to be comfortable. Before I go any further, as we're on the aspect of price, we do not have the selling prices for the units at this moment. However, we hope to have the prices as soon as it is ready. As soon as we have them, we will disseminate that information. Mrs. Banks will be one of probably the first to get it. Yes, she has those connections. The NHT offers you 100% financing for its scheme houses, as well as lots. Now, what you have to understand, so say for example, if the lots are going for $4 million and you can afford the $4 million, ladies and gentlemen, you will be able to access that full $4 million subject to you being able to afford it. So after you have been selected, you still have another test to pass. But that test should be easy to pass because we have all been planning and waiting in Perth. So everybody is supposed to be ready for that. Now, similarly, if the houses go for, say, up to $15 million, and you're a single mother or a single parent, or if you're co-applying, 2 of you can come together and afford the $15 million, by all means. If one person can afford the $15 million, by all means. What we have done is made sure it is easier for you to get the property. I believe that 10 years ago, or 11 maybe, when Perth Phase 1 was done, there was a trouble, persons had to find deposits. We've lessened that burden. Should you be able to afford it, you'll only be required to pay $3,500 as closing costs. Yes, only $3,500. Can't even go to the supermarket. Now, the contribution refunds, we're on the policies to assist you. So this is the goodies bag. And here you have the contribution refunds towards deposit. Not many persons know about this great policy. What it does is that it gives you the opportunity to actually afford to use your unclaimed NHT contributions as a deposit, should you have a shortfall. So say, for example, your refunds that is there adds up to, say, 100,000. you can get those to borrow, but we cannot give you, there has to be a year left in the back. So as of now, it is only up to 2019. We'd have to leave 2019 in the back. So you'd get 2014 up to 2018 as monies that you can borrow. If you did not apply for your refunds prior and they're sitting there, you apply for those refunds and then come back to us with it as deposit. Can we make it any easier? I don't believe so. But I must ask, before I get to this point, this policy, the contribution refunds towards deposit, also assists when persons are seeking to buy property on the open market, whether a piece of land or a house. So bear that in mind as well. If you want, it can even assist you to pay for your surveyor's ID reports, your plan. The NHT has a lot in store. So all you need to do is make the query and we can tell you how best we can assist you. Now, if your employer hasn't paid over those monies, that's where the difficulties lie, and we will always be able to go to the compliance department for them to actually tap that individual on their shoulder and say, listen, I need my money. But there are rights that you have. You can sue your employer for loss of benefit. The home grant, no, this is the best, probably one of the best policies the NHT has to offer, which is if you are earning between minimum wage and $15,000 per week, and you've made at least 7 years contributions, you get a grant of up to $7 million. Now, all of these things are subject to certain criteria being met, and it is not that you can't get it without getting a loan. So it not only assists you for schemes, it also assists you if you're buying a house, if you're buying a piece of land, and a portion of this home grant can go towards buying land. So as I said, the goodies bag, we're just throwing them out. So that's one more goodie that you can come and query, or you can find out for your mother or your sister or so if they're eligible for it. There are some conditions that you have to fulfill, but trust me, we are going to do our best to ensure that you get it. And did I say you don't pay us back $1 for this home grant? I don't think I made that great point that this is free money, and who doesn't like free money? There's also parent assist. Now, this is one where persons whose parents are up to age 70, they can assign their points to one, as it says, biologically or legally adopted child. The parents' points would replace the accumulated points of the child. Now, what does this do? What does this mean? Sometimes children have their parents did not take up their NHT loan, nor did they take their NHT contributions. So what we will do is that the persons whose parents are probably now retired and have not done all of that, they can come in and apply with that child to use, and will use their points. Now, if this parent, say, has been working for the past, from 1980, that's what, 40 years, 41 years this year, that person can actually accumulate, that would be 800 and odd points, versus the child who has been contributing for only 1 year. Now that child will will use the parents who has been working from 1980 and not the child's contributions to determine who gets selected. So this is increasing the likelihood that parents can assist children. But as I said, there are conditions that will apply. The parent should not have taken their refund, and the parent should not have taken a loan from the NHT prior. Now, there are special allocations that we also give. Oftentimes when I look at our Facebook page, sometimes I feel like crying because of the number of young persons who apply and are so disappointed when they don't see their names in the newspaper. They're always asking the NHT if we prefer to have a geriatric community. Now, in order to bring balance, there are a few things that we do. And one of them is the intergenerational mortgage. Now, this is a brainchild of the current Prime Minister, where he's insisting that persons who's not able to, who are in a particular age group, their children can come on as a beneficiary to carry on the mortgage. So you'd inherit the mortgage. So for example, if my mother was applying for one of these schemes and she's only 65, she'd only have 5 years to repay the loan. But I can agree now that as a child, I can take on the mortgage. So this is another opportunity that we are looking at for persons who are older and have points, but guess what? There still has to be some issues as it relates to them being able to afford it. Young professionals, these looks at persons who actually fall in a particular profession or a particular age group more than likely. So these persons will be allocated, and all of these are 10%. The disabled are also given an allocation. So if a disabled person applies and didn't get through, they can also apply through the Disabilities Council of Jamaica and be selected. Even a public sector worker whose name wasn't in the paper, this is also an alternative. They can contact their unions to find out what is it that, or which unions we have preferences. I believe oftentimes it's the police and the nurses and the Civil Service Association that may have these kinds of allocations. But I would advise you, if you know of these persons, that if they make any queries, that these persons would be best speak with their respective trade unions or their associations. Now, the qualifying requirements. You only need be an NHT contributor, be between the ages of 18 and 65 years old, and have at least made only 1 year's contribution. Be a non-homeowner and never accessed a loan from the NHT. So these are a few of the conditions that you have to satisfy. So if you've been contributing for a year, you can apply. But I will tell you at this point in time about the points. Points are calculated based on income, not income as well as the number of years you worked. So you get 20 points for every year that you work. So if you've been working for 20 years, 20 times 20 is 400. If you work half of the year, that's only 20. So when persons say they've been working from 1999, it seems long. But then when you add it up, the person who's been working from 1989 has a more likelihood of being selected because they've been working for longer. So recall that for every year you work, it's 20 points. Then a portion between 110 and 70 are going to be assigned to you based on income. When I get to the part of when I show you the income and the respective interest rates, we will see what I mean as it relates to the number of points that you get from income. So I'm not turning off persons who have been contributing for a year, but bear in mind that you only get 20 points for every year that you work. So if you're asking anybody has NHT points, that is how, but the great thing is that this is not applicable when you're buying a house or a piece of land or applying for a loan to build on your own land through the NHT. Once you've met a year, once you've been contributing for a year, points do not come into play when you're buying something from Mastom or from one of those agencies such as, say, Moorlands or a private person selling. This point system does not apply. You only need to, you can fulfill all the criteria here, but the point system does not apply. Now, the application process. You will apply online at the NHT's website, and that link is going to be placed up on the site for you to click on. You answer the questions. The first part, you might have to answer one question, you answer that, and then you move on. You need an NIS card, your TRN card, because you'll have to put in this information. You may need your ID, and you'll also need proof of contributions. Now, that is why Ms. Ebanks emphasized that you have to make sure that your contributions from past and present employers are actually accounted for. The other day, a young lady was talking to me about her points, and she said to me that she was working with a company and they did not pay contributions for her. When she came to the NHT, she found out that they took the money from 2014 to about 2017 or thereabout. But she has her pay slips. So guess what? She has proof that it was taken from her. Can the NHT can therefore not penalize her. We'd have to now go after her employer. And that is why it is important that when persons get their pay slips, that they check to see not once in a while if their contributions are coming over, just because your employer may not be as honest. And if self-employed, we will get something from the compliance department to give us information on your contribution payments. Now here is our interest rates. Pastor Harvey alluded to the lowest interest rates. I don't think it can go lower than 0. If it goes lower than 0, we might be freezing. But here is the interest rate breakdown. And as I said, this is where the points come into play. The more you work is the less points you get. Now, why is that? NHT was designed for low-income workers, and they are at a severe disadvantage when it comes on to affording something on the open market. You might say, but everybody has that problem. Yes, I agree, but we still have to fulfill our mandate, which is to ensure low-income earners get more of the favorability. Now, as you can see, public sector workers, contributors who are 55 years and older, and persons with disabilities enjoy discounts. So can you imagine, you can move from all the way to 4 to 2 if you actually get to 2% when you get with this contributor with disabilities. And if you have another 2%, you go down. So all of these things are great news for persons who may fall in all of these categories, because you have some persons who are public sector workers, 55 and over, and have disabilities. That's a big combination. Some persons have the opportunity to actually get 0% interest rates. Now, what you must remember, the NHT offers 100% financing for all its scheme solutions, but the maximum will go up is to $15 million. Low interest rates and same-day loan approval. So you don't have to actually wait until the next 2 weeks, like when you go to the banks to find out if your loan is approved. It actually is approved on spot, and you know within a couple of days whether, or even the same day, whether or not you're going to get through. Now picture yourself collecting your keys from the Prime Minister. This was a handover that we had in looks like done by St. Mary. So picture yourself holding your keys to your mansion. Maybe not in this photograph or maybe in a photograph, but let your journey to homeownership start now. And can I say, although Perth is where we are talking about, I like to encourage persons to have a plan B. Too often we sit and wait until the scheme comes and it doesn't, we don't get selected, and we wait and wait and wait. Can I say that having been one of those persons who was probably waiting on Perth, but realized it was not coming, I too had to make that decision of a plan B. So yes, the lots in Manchester might fetch a high price, but NHT offers up to 2.5, and there are other options in terms of financing through the credit union or through the banks. Yes, the mortgages might sound a little bit more competitive, yes, but remember, you access NHT's loan interest at the bank as well as what the bank wants to offer you. Or if you're not certain, you have to probably search for something within the range of 2.5, because we do not do 100% financing when you're buying from Master. Or you're going to look for something within the range of 6.5. I know single persons have a challenge. However, I would still encourage single persons to get a lot, buy a lot, and then construct. You may not be able to build everything at once, but it's actually your own. Your name is on a title, and you don't have to worry about whether or not you're going to be able to actually own something. Now, what does owning a home offer you comfort. Don't have the landlord come in there to knock up your door to say, Lord, my rent is due. NHT is the best landlord. Last year, during the COVID-19 pandemic, the NHT offered its contributors or its mortgagors a moratorium on a break on their mortgage, or even a fresh start, where if you had arrears, you could actually come in and get it zeroed out and start over. Who does that? It's wealth. It's a sense of accomplishment. It's an inheritance for your children, and it offers peace of mind, security, assets, and your place of solitude. Ladies and gentlemen, that ends my presentation, and I now turn back over to Mrs. Ebanks for her to continue with the question and answers. Thank you.
We can all agree that these presentations were very informative. There is nothing more fulfilling than turning your own keys to your own home and providing one of the basic needs for your family. Now we will take questions from persons on YouTube and Facebook. If you are here on Zoom, open your mics or type in the chat your questions. We have persons here who will answer all the questions that you have to ask.
Hello, good evening. Are you hearing me?
Good evening. Yes, we are hearing you.
Okay. I have a quick question for Kiana. She mentioned about the home grant for 7 million. I wanted to verify if a self-employed person can access that loan.
Yes, the person can get that amount once they fall in the category that I stated, which is
18.
the person should have made have 7 years contribution, and
Right.
they should actually be earning minimum wage.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Please
We
speak.
have a question. May I go ahead? We have a question from our YouTube page. The question is, for self-employed persons who do not have a continuous income, how do they go about making their contributions? Now, for self-employed persons, your contribution is based on the income that you earn. So once you earn an income, that's when you contribute. You contribute on that income. Sometimes you may have to do an estimate because you know your income may fluctuate. This month it is so and so, this month it's so and so and so. It's 10,000, then it's 20,000, then it's 30,000. So what we do is encourage persons who are self-employed to pay on an estimated income. The other question is, what if the self-employed person earns nothing for a month or two and is unable to make payment? Now, if you didn't earn anything, you're not expected to make payments for the period that you did not earn. But we do expect that you would have filed your self-employed returns your SO4 and your SO4A, the estimated quarterly returns, and that those would reflect what's on what your income was. So those are the questions online. Do we have any other question?
Yeah, you have a question here.
Please go ahead.
For students over 18 who are in university, is there an opportunity for those students to contribute to NHT? They are not yet working, but they would like to make contribution.
Is students 18, they're in university, are not working, but would like to contribute to the NHT?
All right.
No, NHT is charged on income earned. So thank you for that question. That's a good question. But NHT is charged on income earned. And so if they are not earning an income, then they would not be required to pay. We spoke about the special persons who could apply up to the minister. Those would be those persons who are voluntary contributors, or those persons who are pensioners who wish to contribute, but it does not apply to students who do not earn. But let us say you have a student at home, the person is going to university, they're over 18, they're more client, because we're living in the online era. That student can pay once the income is 7,000, the minimum wage or more. That person can pay as a self-employed person. They can register as a self-employed person and pay their income on that. If you as a parent provide employment for your child who is over 18 and the person is paid, and your child is doing something for you, let's say your child does editing, your child helps you in the family business, the child is over 18 and is paid, once that person is paid the minimum wage or more, then they can contribute. You can pay for them as an employee. You should pay for them as an employee, as a matter of fact. I hope that made it clear to you, Elder Johnson?
Yes, it is a novel way of really getting the youngsters up and ready for a home after university.
Yes, and we try to, with our public engagements, to get around to our young folks. We've been to NCU, not since COVID, but NCU was one of our places that we would normally go. We've had vibrant sessions with the students there, and lots of questions usually. And you know, we're happy to encourage them to start their quest for home ownership. Miss Case and our loans personnel will tell you too that the earlier you apply, the better for you too, because you can have a longer period to pay for your mortgage. Right now, you can get up to 40 years to pay, but the older you are, the fewer years you would get to pay for your mortgage. So when you're younger, you get to a lot more time to pay within the threshold that NHT has. So that means that your monthly payment would be a lot lower. There's a question here. It says, I missed part of the presentation. Did you say if we collect our NHT refunds every year, we are not entitled to earning points? That's a question online. No, that is not actually correct. You earn points based on your years of contribution. So it's 20 points per year when you claim or not. So putting your refunds fair standing, it's your ability to apply for a loan. Any other question? I know that Miss K spoke about a number of goodies that I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
Tashina, there is another question on YouTube. If the person has made 7 years contribution and is now unemployed, can the person get the grant?
No, the person is not able to get the grant. For every, as was said, you have to be a current contributor to the NHD.
Question.
I
In
also
7 years contribution, the person is employed can grant.
As I said, no, the person can't
Miss
access the
Case?
grant. You're hearing me?
Yes, we're hearing you.
Right. The
Okay,
person
we're
is not
not picking
able
up
to
this case
access the
right now,
grant.
but I know that we do have another NHD resource person online.
Now we're hearing this case. Miss Kate, go ahead.
Right. I was saying that the main criteria that needs to be fulfilled at the time of any application is that you have to be a current NHD contributor. Being a current NHD contributor is very important because it means that you're still a part of the scheme. It means that when you access the loan, that you are still you're still in the motion of being a contributor. So it's important that you are a current contributor as well as your past contributions. I also saw a question in the chat about the selling price for the for the lots and the houses. We have not yet gotten a price. As soon as that is available, it will be disseminated to our users on Facebook. The NHD is on Facebook, the NHD is on Instagram, the NHD is on Twitter. So you can follow those pages for up-to-date information on Perth, because we are trying our best to ensure the information gets out. So there is no selling price at the moment.
Okay, thank you so much, Miss Case. And I want to encourage our brothers and sisters, our friends, to look at all of these tremendous benefits that the NHD is offering. The home grant, $7 million grant. That's awesome that you do not have to repay. Look around your home, the persons who need to be contributing. Maybe you have family members overseas. You can join with someone else. Those of us who are single and we don't have someone to partner with, we don't have to partner with a spouse. We can partner with a brother, a sister, a parent. That parent could be here, the parent could be overseas. If they're overseas and not contributing, then they can contribute through our voluntary contributors scheme. Please forgive me, I've been bumping off the system. My internet connection is not as I hoped tonight, so I do apologize for that. Someone asked, how soon will the lots or houses become available? Miss Case, can you address that, please? How soon will the lots or houses become available?
Well, we're hoping that it is pretty soon. The countdown is still ongoing. We know that as soon as we get price, that is going to be the next step. So at this point in time, if price is not available, we won't be able to put them on the market. So we are holding on for the prices. And as soon as that comes, I'm sure the next step that the NHD will be doing is advertising them for persons to go and apply. But I must emphasize that if persons miss this opportunity, there are going to be over 1,000 solutions that will be coming up in phase 2. So be not dismayed. If you're self-employed and you have to catch up, please catch up. If you are, if you have a self-employed income that you earn as a side hustle, I would also encourage you to pay on that, because it does help in the end for you to be able to afford the loan. So there is time still for persons to get on board and actually get their home, their plans for home ownership on a roll.
I have a question,
Okay.
Miss Kate.
Thank
Tashina,
you.
I have a question for Miss Case on Facebook. This person is asking, when will the application be open for Perth?
The applications will open as soon as we've received price. So I don't have a date right about now. It
All
is
right.
dependent on the availability of the price. So as soon as we hear or get that information, just it will be sent out.
Okay, and another person is asking, I'm not sure if you probably see it in the chat. The person is asking if they can make application now for a unit at Perth, even though you do not have a cost as yet.
No, the applications cannot be made because applications do not open until the price is available. So it's contingent on that.
Okay, I just saw a question. Do you have a timeline in place? Can persons expect that is within 3 months from day or?
I believe that they were still working on the price even up to today when I checked on it. So hoping that within the next, would I say 2 weeks or so, that before the end of this month, we will have more positive information for persons, because I'm sure the NHT is aware that this is a scheme that persons as far as Kingston and people living in and working in Kingston are interested in getting it. But I must emphasize here too that the NHT reserves scheme solutions. It's developments for persons who live and work or live or work in the parish. So if you live in St. Elizabeth and you work in Manchester, you have a chance. But if you live and work in St. Elizabeth, you will not be given priority over the person who lives and works in the parish. And why is that so? Because we have to look out for the persons who are within the parish, who are out of a house. Not to say that persons in St. Elizabeth don't desire to live in Manchester, but you may have to use the open market aspect of that in order to get through. So I must emphasize that we're not discouraging persons who are out of parish from applying. You can. However, you will not be given first preference.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And another question regarding the voluntary contributor scheme for persons overseas, how much would the monthly payment be? For a voluntary contributor, he or she will decide on what income they wish to pay on. Having decided the income that they're going to pay on, they will be required to pay 3% of that. So if in America they want to pay on $1,000 US per month, then the contributions will be 3% of 1,000, which is $30. So it depends on what it is that the person decides to pay on. I really want to encourage our members to look at all of these benefits that are offered by the NHT. Want to also tell you that there is peril and life insurance when you apply for your loan. So if there's hurricane, any disaster of any kind, then the NHT assists with, reconstructing the property or repairing the property. And if God forbid you lose your life, then the loan is paid off so that your beneficiaries do not have to carry that burden. And there are persons who keep their mortgages even though they can pay off just to have those benefits because they are cheaper than having to insure a home on your own. Are there any other questions in the chat at this time? We want to encourage persons as well to look at the home grant, the $7 million. If you earn between $7,000 to $15,000 per week, you've contributed for 7 years or more. Look at it for yourself. Look at it if you have persons in your families who may fall in this category. And as Ms. Kay said, there are other loans that are available, not just her, but we bring in because it's coming up. We hand. Cecile, please go ahead.
Yes, going just double backing on the home grant. So from what I've learned, there are certain criteria, and I heard earlier on that if the person has contributed for over 7 years but not contributing now, they would not qualify. So say for instance, there's a situation where a child then is willing to pay voluntary contributions on behalf of the person to regularize them. Is that possible?
Let me see. So the person who is unemployed has been working for 7 years but is now unemployed, and
They're no, right, go ahead.
the person's child
Yes,
wants to pay for whom? The person or
the
for him?
parent.
No, you're not allowed to do that because NHT is charged on income earned. So if the let's say it's your mother. If your mother is unemployed, then we cannot charge her any monies at all because she's not earning. But as soon as she is employed again, whether she becomes employed to someone or she has self-employed earnings, and she can pay as a self-employed person, then we can look at her again and consider her.
Okay, thank
but
you.
Once the person is not earning an income, then they're not required to make payments.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And we're just about wrapping up now. If
just for emphasis,
yes, go ahead.
For those who are voluntary contributors, where do you pay that contribution again?
Okay, that is paid at the NHT office. So you can also, if you want to register, if you have somebody in your family overseas and you're hearing about it now and you're thinking, you know, I should allow this person to register because later on they might want a loan from the NHT, you can download the from our website, www.nht.gov.jm. Just look for voluntary contributors. You can download the forms, complete them, look for the required documentation, which would be listed there, and then send the information to our office. You can also pay online if you're overseas. You can pay online for our website. So that you don't have to send the money to someone here to go into the office to make the payments for you. You can actually pay online from overseas. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your questions, my fellow church members and friends and community friends. If there are no other questions, we are going to now be moving to, okay, someone is asking a question there from Lisa Wellington. Just a moment, please. Let me take a look at that question. And the question is being asked, what were the requirements for applying online? And are you referring to the scheme, to Perth, applying for Perth online? Miss Wellington, are you referring to applying to Perth online? Could you clarify for me, please? Miss Wellington, based on your question, to applying for Perth online? Yes, okay. Miss Case, can you take this question, please? What are the requirements for applying online?
Well, the requirement is that you access the NHT's page and go through the questions that are being asked. You should have your NIS and your TRN in hand, and your contributions letter from your employer can be of help at that point in time because it will give you an exact amount of years or the timeline for your contributions and your previous contributions, because we do not and will not check the system to see if you have put on all your information. So if you put on only your current employer and left off your previous employer, that is what we're going to use to calculate your points. So the main thing is that you have your documents in hand so that when it's time to apply, you're not causing a tizzy. But I must say it's not first come, first serve. Normally, we normally have applications being submitted over a 3-day period. So many people want to be the first to apply, but I can also tell you that even if you apply on the first day and the points are not enough, you'd still not be selected over the person who applied on the last day and their points are sufficient to get them selected.
Okay, thank you so much. We'll take Pastor Harvey. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. A newly employed person who has just started working and making contribution to the National Housing Trust. How long do that person has to work before the person is eligible to benefit from the National Housing Trust? That's one. Number two, if the person parents have contributed to the National Housing Trust and the parents haven't received any benefit at all from the National Housing Trust, can that be utilized by a young person who has just started employment and contributing to the National Housing Trust?
Okay. All right. Thank you for those answers. I'll take and I'll ask Ms. Case to take the second one. How long does a newly contributor before they can apply for a loan? Rather, I'm so sorry. They only need to contribute and wait 1 year. Contribute and wait 1 year, meaning they would need 1 year's contribution. So they would be contributing from January to December of 2020. Once we're at December, the end of December now, they can apply in January of this year for their loan. I will ask Ms. Case to take question number 2. She alluded to it.
Could you repeat the last part of what was the last question? Question 2?
Okay, where the person is, where parents have been contributing and they have children who are eligible to apply for a loan, how can they assist? How can parents assist? You can talk about our parent assist loan here.
All right, the parent assist has two criteria. There are 2 different types. The one for the scheme is the one I highlighted earlier, where if the person is at the age of 65 or older and have never taken a loan from an NHD or their refund, then their points can be used to assist the individual in getting selected. Now, the other part is that if that person is not a homeowner or never accessed a loan, that the parent can also apply for one of the NHT scheme solutions, being the main applicant and the child being the co-applicant. However, the parent must not be married to a homeowner, and the parent should also not have gotten a loan from NHT. There is also Parent Assist 2, which also is another program that NHT offers to parents who want to assist their child, but that person is actually working and already own a home, but they can use that now it's not a points thing anymore. All they're trying to do is to assist the child to get something. I hope that answered the question.
Mr. Harvey,
Thank you very much.
Satisfied? Okay, we will take the two final questions. Ms. Case, this one is for you, and I'll take the last one. How many points do you need for Perth?
Points is hard to say because persons can be selected or your name can come in the newspaper and you get the maximum points and you're still not able to fulfill some of the criteria. So it's difficult to say if the person who has been working for 20 years versus the person who has been working for 30 might stand a chance. All I would encourage persons to do is apply. That's the only way you'll know if you'll get through. If you don't get through, as I said, plan B is a good plan as well, which is to find something that you can afford to purchase and purchase it on the open market, or if you have access to land to build, you choose to also build on that land, or if you want to add on to a house that is already there that you believe you can use your NHT loan to get those things going, rather than sitting and hoping that you will be able to get a scheme.
Okay, thank you so much. And the final question, can a voluntary contributor who resides overseas and a person residing in Jamaica combine to get a loan? And that is yes. The answer is yes. So the person is contributing and has contributed for the required period of time, the voluntary contributor, then that person can join with one here who is contributing as well, and also have and they have $13 million together, subject to affordability, of course. And thank you so much for all your questions tonight. We are so happy to get these questions. If you have,
Tashina, there is one last question on Facebook. There's one last question on Facebook. Right. Somebody is asking, do people who live in a rented house versus those who live in a family house be given preference?
No, that is not a criteria.
Can you address that, please?
No, that is not
That's
a criteria to examine. Once you can, that's not a criteria for selection. That person who rents or owns a home still has to fulfill the criteria of having enough points first, and then being able to afford the loan.
Okay.
What we will do is use the rent to offset your mortgage when it is now time to look at your disposable income. That is the only thing that the rent would be used for.
Miss Case, it would seem to me, Miss Case, that this is a lottery. Because
NHT was actually the first selection that we did was done in the form of a lottery. It used to be that the NHT would just do a raffle and pick out names, and that is when we realized it was inequitable. The reason why it is that it's a scarce number of solutions. We have probably about 16,000 or more persons in Manchester who want a house and would prefer an NHT solution, but we cannot give everybody one. So in times like these, we have to. It sounds like we have an issue that. Yes, it sounds like a lottery, but I would say it's not a gamble that persons cannot afford to do, because I have experienced where persons have applied and they have not been successful, and it falls to another person. It's just that you play the lottery when you apply for the scheme. When you go into the open market, it's not like that. It's not that competitive. You have more of a free hand where that is concerned.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. And we are grateful for all the questions. And if you should need any further information, you may visit our office, visit our caller office. We're located in Caledonia Mall, Mandeville. 962-6368. That is our telephone number, and you can ask to speak with our customer service rep or Miss Case if you wish, and we can have private conversations with those of us who may not want to ask our questions online or ask it in the earshot of everyone else. You can speak with us privately. You can also speak with us about other benefits apart from PERF, and we can assist you there. And so now we're going to close this segment, the question and answer segment, and we're going to move to, I'm going to turn over to Sister Brown, Sister Narda Brown, as she takes us through to the end of the program. Sister Brown?
We have gotten information overload from NHT. So for persons who have not known anything about NHD, I'm sure tonight we have gotten a full package. So now for persons who, for the nuclear family, this is your opportunity. For the extended family, single parent, if you're single or married and don't have any children, this is still your opportunity. And it's not just Perth. As Ms. Gates mentioned earlier, they have other loans that can suit your pocket. So we're grateful for this presentation. It has been very informative. So now we will turn over to Elder Lawrence Johnson, who will do the vote of thanks, then Horace Burnett, who will do the closing prayer.
Okay, let me say that personally, I am delighted for this alliance between NHT and the church. It shows once more that our network can create not only wealth, but shelter for individuals in Manchester and in the wider sphere of life. Let me congratulate Sister Tashina Banks and Miss Case from the NHD in forging the relationship with the Maranatha Seventh-day Adventist Church through the Family Life Ministries Department, headed by Mr. and Mrs. Kawane Brown. I think it was an excellent program, and we definitely learned a lot, especially with respect to the affordability and accessing housing solution for our people. I think this is a model that we can follow going forward to really share with prospective homeowners how they can access. The presentation was really thorough. It was really clear, and leaving here as a leader, I am better able to engage my fellow brethren and also workers, how they can really access NHT housing solution. And let me say that I am a proud beneficiary of a home from NHT. And what they said with respect to affordability is true, because we were paying 2 years after our mortgage ended, just to show you how affordable after 5 years that mortgage or installment is. So for all of us on this platform, please go back home, or if you're at home, discuss with your partner, begin to put your applications together so that when there is a window of opportunity for PERT or any other scheme in Manchester, that you will be able to access it. So once again, thank you on behalf of the church and behalf of all the aspiring homeowners for a tremendous presentation, an eye-opening one that we will definitely make use of. So continue to give public service and also to lift up humanity, and may God bless you real good.
Let us bow our heads for prayer. Great God, we want to thank you for your mercies and your grace. We want to thank you for this presentation done by the NHT. They have provided valuable information for your people, especially those who need to access home where they can live more comfortable. Pray in a very special way that you'll grant your blessing on the NHT. Thank you for the presenters. We thank you for the coordinators of this program. We pray that you'll continue to bless us, continue to direct us, and continue to fill us with your grace. And help, Lord, that those who are in need of homes, that they will seek the opportunity to access same. And finally, Lord, we ask you for a double portion of your blessing as we pray and say thanks through Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen.
Amen. We have come to the end of an excellent evening program where educating our people, securing a home for the family can become a reality. We will now invite our pastor for the closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Sister Nadia Wint Brown, to you and your husband, Kawane, our family ministries directors, and also to our education director, Sister Ebanks. We thank you very much. And for those from National Housing Trust that came here and provided the information. I know you can see the interest that you have generated here, and somebody almost would cost you a little for your advertisement here, in that it is good for those who are on Facebook and YouTube. Your network can also help you with your net worth. I will leave you to think about that. Your network can help you with your network, your net worth. So please think about that as you go about it and work assiduously. But we want more of our young people. And this is something that we would agitate for, more of our young persons, that they will cut the requirements so that our young people can have affordable homes so that they can start right. Some persons will not have the generational legacy for it to be bequeathed to them. And so we would want that facility to be improved. Well, thank you very much for being here, and we are grateful, and we look forward you coming again and sharing with us. And please tell us quick, early, when you would have gotten the prize for each unit, so that the folk can begin to send in their application so that they can benefit. Thanks again for being here with us, and please always encourage your employing organization to ensure that your contributions are sent over to NHT on time, and that will help to facilitate the process going forward. Thank you. Thank you. We really appreciate that. And I want to say to our friends, we are counting down to Operation Rescue, and we are using this initiative, this opportunity, to invite our guests from National Housing Trust to join us online for Operation Rescue evangelistic series. And we have some powerful presentations lined up for you, and I know that you stand to benefit. God bless you. Have yourselves a wonderful night, and we see you on Sabbath, those who will be joining us. And then Sunday evening, we will begin Operation Rescue Evangelistic Series, the Maranatha district of Seventh-day Adventist churches with the Seek and Save mentality, and the Mike Town district of Seventh-day Adventist churches present Operation Rescue Evangelistic Series. And we want you to be there with international evangelists, Evangelist Michael Henry and Dr. Ainsworth Morris. Pastor Clark and myself, we look forward with the team to go forward in proclaiming the good news so that many more persons can find hope, many more persons can find a reason for living and salvation ultimately, as we prepare ourselves not only for occupation in our earthly dwelling or earthly homes, but we will look forward to that city that hath foundation, whose builder and maker is God, where we will not have to do any maintenance work or any deterioration will take place. It's going to be grand, and we want you to be there to enjoy it with us, because provision is made for everyone. And if you don't pay your mortgage here, you might have problem. But over there, you ain't gonna pay no mortgage. So get ready to be there. God bless you. Have yourselves a wonderful night. Love you and take care.
On Christ the solid rock I stand. All other ground is sinking sand. All other ground is sinking sand. My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest frame, but only lean on Jesus' name. On Christ the solid rock I stand. All of the ground is sinking sand. All of the ground is sinking sand. All of the ground is sinking sand. When he shall come with trumpet sound, oh, may I then in him be found, glad in his righteousness alone, faultless to stand before the throne. On Christ the solid rock I stand. All of the ground is sinking sand. All of the ground is sinking sand. All of the ground is sinking sand. My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest frame, but wholly lean on Jesus' name. On Christ the solid rock I stand. All of the ground is sinking sand. All of the ground is sinking sand. All of the ground is sinking sand. All of the ground is sinking sand.
Could you sing it one more time?
All of the ground is sinking sand.